evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 21st meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody here. We've got a nice crowd here tonight, and as traditional for us, we will open with the prayer and the pledge. I've asked Commissioner Godwin to lead us in the prayer and Commissioner Tony Braswell to lead us in the pledge. So if you would please rise.
Let's pray. Father God, we acknowledge that you are the Almighty God, and we thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you've sent to us. We ask your blessing tonight as we come together and go about the business of the county, that you bless each one here, that you bless and imbue all the commissioners with wisdom and knowledge and courage. We ask that you help us make decisions that are not only good for the citizens and our county, but that are pleasing to you. Forgive us our shortcomings, for it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll just mention there's no comma after one nation. It's one nation under God, total, okay? Thank you. Attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if you would be seated, and I'm going to come down. Our first order of business is recognition of a retiring clerk. Slide this down for your speech.
No.
Maybe I'll just lean in a little bit here.
Okay.
First off, thank you, Paula, for herding the cats that you've herded over many years. Some of us are a little tougher to herd than others, but we thank you for that. I was thinking mainly some of them back here in the back, those are the tough ones. But anyway, I'll read this for you. And kind of, let me, before I do that, one thing is kind of the order of business here. I'm going to present the plaque to Paula. We're going to take a picture with the current commissioners and former commissioners. And then I'm going to allow each one of the former commissioners that want to say a little something. And then at the end of the meeting, because I know Paula doesn't like standing up here, the rest of the current commissioners will say their thank yous. So I'll read the plaque now. It says, with sincere gratitude and appreciation for dedicated service as the Johnston County Clerk to the Board of Commissioners from 2007 to 2022, Paula G. Woodard, and we present to Paula G. Woodard, and in recognition of 28 years of outstanding service as a public servant. And thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to get one with all the commissioners?
Yeah, so oh yeah, so I forgot there was a whole pile of people come in at one time, so Paula, do you want to, since I don't know first names, I don't know.
So this is my husband Tommy and my son Cameron and my new nephew-in-law Jordan and my niece Deanna and my sister-in-law Diana and my brother Paul. So and I don't think I missed anybody.
You got it? Okay, well, good. All right, I'm going to go up here.
All right, who's going to be in the picture? Everybody's going to be in the picture.
Dickie, we're going to need to congregate over here.
Stand over there if you don't mind.
Yeah, Paula. You just got to be right up front and center, Paula.
Last slide.
All right.
Yeah, I would
Let's get this front row to just scoot a hair like this. Get a little more smack center. All right.
Jeff's hair's
All right, we're
glaring.
going to take 3. Is everybody ready? Perfect.
glaring or
Glaring.
You want to get one with your husband and son up here?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, do you want to get the family in?
Yeah.
Well, then the former commissioners line up to speak. How about that? Yeah. Be ready to say your name and your general address.
And you're limited to 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Hold it 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Y'all want to come get in the picture?
Yeah, let's
Yeah, let's get.
Get the whole family.
That'd be ridiculous. All right. Okay. This time, let me get everybody scooted over here. And can I get one person from this side to go over on this side? Get a volunteer. Perfect. Okay. You know what? Now that I did that, let me have. All right. Perfect. Stop.
Simon says.
All right. All righty. I'm gonna take 3. Perfect. Thanks, y'all.
All right. All right. Yes, you sit down. Yeah. You can rest now.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Lee Jackson, 401 North 2nd Street, Smithville, North Carolina.
Start the timer.
I know I've only got 3 minutes. I'll keep it as brief as possible. They say that no one is replaceable, and I guess that you are about to find out, and Rick is going to find out if that's actually true. I don't think the people in the county know all the things that Paula has done in order to keep our county moving smoothly, and so many things that have happened behind the scenes that she has deftly handled and taken care of. And I just want, on behalf of all the people that don't know all that you do, I would just like to say thank you. And I would like to say thank you personally for all that you did while I was here. So thank you, and enjoy retirement.
Jeff Carver, 85 Christenberry Lane, Clayton, North Carolina, 27527. Paula, thank you very much for all those years. I find it hard to believe that it was 2007 when you came on to be with us. And, you know, I've always said I like orange. I like orange ties, not orange jumpsuits, and I always credit you for keeping us. Thank you very much. And if you got through this one without a orange, we really do appreciate it. So congratulations.
Mr. Carver, I did say some of us were harder to hurt than others. I don't want pointing fingers, but yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Congratulations. Thank you for all you did for me as commissioner and chairman. I think all the staff in Johnston County is the backbone of, as y'all very well know, the county and what we do. I did not know Paula or Dana, but one fond memory, which was not too fond, but I've thought about it over the years. My dad was a former commissioner that obviously y'all soon thought a lot of, and during his funeral, y'all sat at the house to greet guests that might be coming all day long. And over the years, I thought, how miserable could that be, looking at his memories all over with pictures and stuff. And I do appreciate both of y'all for doing that. Chad Stewart, 121 Dogwood Lane, 4 Oaks, North Carolina, 27524. The next thing is the type of person that Paula is. As chairman, at the end of the day, you're going home and things are going through your mind. And it was probably 5 or 10 minutes after 5. And I called Paula. I said, "You still at the office?" And she says, "No, sir, I've already left." I said, "No big deal. Monday, when you get there, if you will, look up the minutes of the so-and-so meeting. I'd like to have this information, the stuff I'm looking into." She said, "No problem, sir." In 45 minutes, I had what I was looking for. I said, "Paula, where are you at?" She said, "I'm at the office." I said, "Paula, on Friday afternoon, you've already made it home, and you've drove slam back to the office?" I said, "I could have had this done on Monday. You didn't have to do it right then." "Well, I had it on my mind." I knew right then, unless it was very important. Don't ask Paula to do anything until exactly when you want it done. So, anyway, congratulations. You really served me well, the county well, as all our people do. Thank y'all for what you do each and every day.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we will save the rest of the thank yous and expressions of gratitude for the board during board comments. So,
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
all right, so next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda itself. And I hear a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's approved. Next up, we have the consent agenda, and I'll just read those. We have seven things on here. One is approval of the minutes from September the 19th and October 3rd, both the morning and the afternoon sessions, and then the October 17th meeting. We have DOT additions to the system, and we also have a Celebrate Cleveland Committee request for temporary road closure for the Christmas parade. We have a request for public hearing for a name of a newly established road. And we have approval of a bulk wastewater agreement with the town of Pine Level. And then we have appointments to the Wilson Mills Fire Relief Fund Board. And finally, we have budget revisions for the Soil and Water Conservation District and for tourism. Any of those items need to be pulled for further discussion? If not, do I hear approval of the motion for approval?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as stated.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Consent agenda is approved. All right, next up, we have public comments. There's a lot of people here. I'm not sure how many are here for public comments, but if you're a member of the audience wishing to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, please come forward and state your name and the town or township you're from. You have 3 minutes to speak, and we would say please be respectful and speak in a civil manner, and this is also a time for the commissioners to listen and receive your comments, not a time for us to engage in discussion and debate. So if there's anyone here wishing to speak under the public comment section, please come forward now. All right, seeing nobody making a move. Madam Clerk, last time I get to ask you this, nothing in the email? Okay. All right, so we will move on to the next agenda item, which is my favorite organization to pronounce and say, the I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance, the training center project request for funding. So, Mr. King, welcome.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Commissioners, thank you. My name is Harold Keene, and I'm from Ingram's Township. And I'm here in my role as a community service role as chairman of the, can I say it correctly, Mr. Chairman, I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Alliance. And as all of you know, the objective of the Crossroads of America Alliance was to create above-average jobs on the I-95 corridor. If you look at Johnston County, the towns along the I-95 corridor are the lowest income in the county. And so we have one goal, and yet it's a very big one. And in looking at that, it's fairly clear that advanced manufacturing is the answer to get above-average jobs. You know, opportunities for young people coming out of school with meaningful jobs. And Chris Johnston, your economic developer, our economic developer, constantly says over 60,000 people get up every day and leave Johnston County for jobs. And so there has to be some way to change that. When we started looking at what's required to gain advanced manufacturing, education became a big part of that. So obviously we turned to Johnston Community College, and we very quickly learned that Johnston Community College needed updated space and equipment for their advanced manufacturing program. We went to Raleigh and shared our story with the elected leadership, and from them received a grant of $1.2 million to develop plans for a technology center to be built in Dunn, North Carolina, and an advanced manufacturing building to be built in Johnston County. We developed those programs to the level to be able to get fairly accurate cost estimates. $10 million to update a building in Dunn that's already being used, and $35 million to build a state-of-the-art new building in Four Oaks. The Johnston County Workforce Training Building was designed to house Johnston Community College Advanced Manufacturing Program and to allow the college to increase that program by 50%. And I would add, they have a waiting list for that. State elected officials then gave us $12 million to show their commitment and directed us to get local matching funds of at least 50% of costs, and then to return to Raleigh expecting to get the remainder of their 50% matching funds. So that's where we are today. The building. The Workforce Training Center will be a 60,000 square foot building with Johnston Community College initially using 70% of that space for their expanded advanced manufacturing program, and the majority of the remaining space being a high bay open area that's to be used for specific industry training. The building will be constructed on a 4.5 acre site at I-95 and Keene Road, and that 4.5 acre site is part of a over 16 acre site that's owned by the Four Oaks Economic Development Corporation. Upon completion of the building construction, we anticipate that building being deeded to Johnston Community College. So those are my basic details, and I respectfully come to you on behalf of the I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Alliance with the blessings of Johnston Community College and their excitement of what this will mean for their future, and with the blessings of the town of Four Oaks leadership. And I ask that you approve funding of $17.5 million for this project. Since I have the podium, if you allow me one moment, I want to make a personal comment. We at the Crossroads of America right now in this county. So there will be plenty of opportunities to get average or less paying jobs. But if we want Johnston County to be in an above average place to live and work, we must recruit above average paying jobs. Jobs that will require a trained workforce, companies that will create a tax base to help pay for the quality of life that I think all of us desire. So I ask your support. Ken Boheim from acting interim president Johnston Community College is here. He wants to make a couple of comments of support. Andy Hardy, representing the town of Four Oaks, is here. And William Elmore, who's mayor of Dunn, is here also if you have other questions. So,
all right.
Ken?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ken Boham, the renter president at Johnston Community College. I live at 256 Lucky Ribbon Lane. I got no idea what township it is, but it's in Wake County. Does that take care of it?
It does.
Okay, thanks, sir. I've got two items to read, Mr. Chair, and then I'd like to go on record and give it to the county manager, if that's okay.
You can give it to the, how about giving it to the clerk?
I'll give it to the clerk.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a letter to the chairman at its regularly scheduled November 10, 2022 meeting of the Board of Trustees of Johnston Community College. The trustees voted to officially go on record in supporting the funding request to the commissioners for approval of the Advanced Manufacturing Training Facility. We feel this project will enhance and expand educational opportunities for training and educational opportunities as well as workforce development for the citizens of Johnston County. Thank you for your continuing support of Johnston Community College and the workforce development opportunities for our citizens. And the motion read, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, the I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance, in collaboration with Johnston Community College, is requesting funding from the Johnston County Commissioners for matching state funds for an advanced manufacturing training facility that will allow the college to enhance and expand opportunities for training and educational opportunities and workforce development for the citizens of Johnston County. in so much as this directly benefits the citizens of Johnston County and the growth of the college, I hereby move to have the College Board of Trustees officially go on record as supporting the funding request to the commissioners for approval of this project. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
So, any questions for Dr. Boham? I know he has, we're interview with presidential candidates, so if any questions, but for him, we can let him get out of here quick.
When does the rental expire?
December 23rd
23rd, okay.
at approximately 5, could be 5:02, 5:03. I'm committed to, so.
Okay. Okay. It's been a pleasure for us.
It is. And
I think you got something the 21st or something.
I think so. I think April responded today. So, but I have requested to go on the agenda for the
5th.
first Monday in December to come by so you can see me one more time before I go.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank
If not,
Thank you.
Thank you.
go fulfill your duties as interim president. And,
Right, so that I
interview.
can't expire.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
What
you.
I understand, they're going to miss you.
Yes.
I'm going to miss y'all too. I just may come back for another commissioners meeting, you never know.
Mr. Hardy?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Andy Hardy. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of 4 Oaks and also a Director on the Alliance. I'm going to shorten that up. I live at 814 East Stanley Street in 4 Oaks, North Carolina, 27524. And I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to allow us to come speak about this project this evening. And want to let y'all know that the town of 4 Oaks is committed to the project, and we're excited to participate with the county and Johnston Community College in order to make this project a success. I don't want to regurgitate everything that's been said here tonight about the project or what's in your packet, but, the town does believe that this project will benefit, not only the current students in Johnston Community College, but also future students, current businesses in the area, prospective businesses that want to come to the area. When I say area, Johnston County. And then also, not only the citizens of 4 Oaks, but Johnston County as a whole. Similar to the Skills Center in Clayton, has brought a lot of business and a lot to the community. We believe this project can also. So I do want to thank you for your time and consideration of the training center, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Hardy?
Has the town of 4 Oaks, in their commitment, have they considered perhaps setting aside a percentage of their tax collected for a percentage for the upkeep or maintenance or whatever of this facility? Have we discussed that any at all?
So I think we have not discussed any specifics because we've got to get it off the ground before we do that. But I think from the commitments and some discussions I've had, that is a strong possibility, and that 4 Oaks will make that decision at an appropriate time.
Yes, sir. We've had some preliminary discussions, but as you mentioned, we need to get off the ground, and then are happy to participate with further discussions with the county. As far as see how we go and make it work.
If it belongs to the college, will it generate taxes?
Well, and I don't want to get all on a whole another discussion, but I think we're talking about industries that may come there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Not facility, but what it would generate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. And Mary Elmore?
Good evening, Mr. Commissioner and other members of the board. My name is William Elmore. I'm the mayor, City of Dunn. This is one of the biggest projects that I've been involved in is with 4 Oaks and Johnston County. I've been involved for most of my life in communities, and I've served on as Board of Commissioner in the town of Mount Olive when I lived there. And I've been involved in the city of Dunn for many years and serving my third year as mayor there. When we got together with Four Oaks and began to talk about the challenges that we had along Interstate 95, we realized we needed to do something. And in doing so, we found out that if we were going to change the things along our interstate, that we had to change the approach that we were taking. And in doing that, we felt like that we needed to bring better jobs to this area. And I feel like that with what we're doing now and the direction that we're headed, that we're going to see many changes, and this will be generational changes. It may not be changes that will be immediate that we'll see in our lifetime, or certainly me, but I think that it's going to affect my children, my grandchildren, a lot of your children and grandchildren as well as other citizens. But the city of Dunn is behind this project 100% for Johnston County as well as for what we have going on in the city of Dunn and Harnett County. Our Board of Commissioners has participated with the city of Dunn and made a commitment over a 3-year period to give $55,000 a year towards this project to get it up and running, and the town of Four Oaks has done the same. And we have had just a tremendous amount of support from the state, and I'm very excited about this project. Dunn is going to get a $10 million facility renovated, and that will be used to help training, technology training for the Alliance. So if y'all land something in Johnston County and need technology training, they'll travel to Dunn 20 minutes. And if they need in Dunn, as we get manufacturing, if we need some manufacturing advanced training, then they'll travel to this facility here. So I think it's an outstanding program, and I'd just like to let you know that Dunn's behind this 100% and ask for your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. King, was there anyone else in your group? If I would ask Chris Johnston, our Economic Development Director for Johnston County, I'd like you to kind of weigh in on this, since we're talking workforce development, and that's kind of right up your alley.
Sure thing. First of all, I want to say it's a great honor and a privilege to work with the Alliance. Anytime that we can bring jobs to the I-95 corridor, it's vital. Low-hanging fruit is warehouse distribution, but unfortunately those are not the higher-paying jobs that change generational families and individuals along the corridor that need it most. In meeting with site consultants around the region, time and time again they say, what are you doing about workforce and what are you doing about employment? That is the number one thing. So working with our school system, which I know we have here tonight, and also with the community college, it's key to start developing that pipeline. And I see this as a huge, huge win. If you think about driving down I-85 after you're leaving Charlotte going into South Carolina, and you see the Workforce Training Center for BMWs and places like that, I think it's all we have to do is just look up what's in Clayton and the investment that was made there and the reinvestment that's been made. So my board is in support of this, but obviously the key thing is how do we financially pay for this, but I think that y'all have got some discussions going on to possibly figure that out. But from a facility, we need it.
All right. Mr. King, anyone else? All right, the board have questions for anyone who's stepped up tonight? Any comments?
I had a question for Mr. King, just observation. Do you think Benson will ever get back involved in this, or would that be purely speculation on everybody's part?
Well, I have dreams. Mr. Brathwaite, I can't speak for them. Sometimes local politics are local politics. I wasn't around the table in the very early discussions for the Alliance. Mayor Elmore was. He would tell you that Benson was a lead in that discussion, and then somewhere along the way, some of their town board just didn't feel it, I guess. And I certainly have hopes that they come back in. Obviously, the region is stronger if they're part of it. And So we certainly desire for that to happen. I haven't given up on that. I've spent a considerable amount of time, even recently, working that. And as we know, things change and people's focus change. So I'm very hopeful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown, I will add, some of the discussions I've had, there has been some movement, and we're kind of talking about two different things. We have the Alliance, which is an economic development for Dunn, Four Oaks, and Benson, and we also have some regional utilities that we're looking at, which is another separate. And this in itself is a third item that would help. Granted, they're all kind of tied together, but this is a separate item from all of that. That again, to me, is workforce development. And also bringing that up to the I-95 corridor. So they're kind of separate, but I do think there is movement to see some unification of all three of those towns in the Alliance. So.
I had a question. I know some representatives maybe from the Alliance and maybe some of our board in economic development has visited several sites of other such facilities in our state and maybe in South Carolina. In approaching this design, is there specifics that they included in that design, or is it of such a general nature?
The engineering firm we're using has done 27 of these across the southeast.
That answers my question.
And they're all similar, the ones we've been to. I mean, obviously the buildings are a little different, but they all create the large high bay area so a company can simply move their own equipment in there, plug it in, hook it to the gas, water, whatever, electricity, and utilize it and train for however many weeks they need to train for, and then roll it back out and have another one come in.
Similar to what they do at pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and so specifically because we were working with the taking care of the advanced manufacturing at the community college, then obviously some of that space, the classroom type space and area for robotics and those things are taken into concern, yes.
Any other questions?
I just had a comment. It was something I was very excited to learn about. I think this is great for having additional education opportunities for our entire county and the communities within our county. I think, working together with other counties is for the greater good of Johnston County as well. And like the chairman said, just kind of working together, regionalization, we're growing together as it is, and I think it would only benefit if we're keeping people, like Chris said, working here and living here in Johnston County for at least the next 10 years. I think I'm excited about it personally. We all know workforce is an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue, and the best thing we can do is get in front of it.
Any other comments?
I think it's something that we pretty much need to address now, because 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, it may not do the good it's going to do. We need to start getting ready now so we're prepared. We're in a growth situation right now, and it's only going to get better, I think.
It's a bold step, but I think in order to improve the situation along the I-95 corridor, it's time for a bold step on the part of this board.
Any comments? Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll throw mine in there now. We had last year, or actually this year, in May, we had our retreat, and 2 of the 6 priorities we had, I feel, tied directly to this. One was education funding, and it was more than just per student spending, and the other is financial stewardship. And I think as we talk about education funding, ties directly to workforce development. We've heard the number of people that leave the county. We know that, and we're starting to see young folks who grew up here stay here, but we want to continue to provide opportunities for them to stay here and have well-paying or good-paying jobs, in addition to the folks who are already here and maybe want to quit driving to another county and have an opportunity to find a better job here and be closer to their families, participate in their children's or grandchildren's activities and not have to spend an extra hour in the car getting back or maybe even missing that. But the other is financial stewardship, and we've heard we have significant state monies that are going to be set aside, potentially set aside for this project. We've heard Four Oaks and Dunn, for that matter, municipalities who are going to invest in this in the operating cost side of things on there. So we have a group that is many groups that are coming together in support of this, and I think can benefit from it. And I do think it's a generational change. We've heard that mentioned a couple of times, generational change. And I think sometimes those big steps, are scary steps because there's a lot of what ifs, something goes wrong on here. But I think that if we, can get staff to look in options for how we fund what's been asked of us and make sure we do, and again, goes back to financial stewardship, make sure we do that in a proper way. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for that. So that's my 2 cents. Commissioner Smith, you lean forward.
Yeah. Just one little technicality. I just think we ought to have some clarity and legal certainty as to what entity is going to own this facility. Because if we're going to be using taxpayer money, I think it needs to go into a facility that's owned by public owner.
And I will attempt to address this, and anybody out there who wants to correct me. So I think the plan is the Alliance will be a facilitator for collection of at least the state money and overseeing the construction. And at the time that construction is completed, the facility, and it may be two options, but right now I think it's going to be owned by JCC, potentially the Economic Development Corporation. But one of those two entities, my preference would be JCC, but they will own the property and the building, and not the Alliance.
I really think, and I don't want anything I'm saying to be perceived as negative, but I just think we have a duty to the taxpayers. You're talking $17.5 million. That's real money. That not be an assumption as to who's going to own this facility at the end of the day. That needs to be, I believe, a part of the condition. So whether it's whatever public facility it is, it's fine with me. I just don't think we can give $17.5 million to a private business.
I agree.
I think we all agree. I think we all agree with that. So I think we can make that part of.
So for public clarification, would it be, even if we approve to fund it before any funds are released, we would know the entity that would be the controlling party, correct?
Yes.
You can make that as part of the condition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Are we going to take a vote, or are we just going to let staff
No.
come back to us?
No, I think the timing of the situation for the state, I think we need it's either thumbs up or thumbs down.
I'm ready.
I'll make a
tonight.
motion.
So, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve up to $17.5 million for the construction of this I-95, I-40 Crossroads of America Economic Development Alliance Training Center project.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Could we make as part of that motion the conditions?
The public ownership of the facility?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, and then the condition that the funds not be released until we are clear on who the owner is going to be in that.
All right, you agree to
Yes.
that amendment? All right, we have an amended motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It is a leap of faith, and we thank you for the confidence you're showing in us to get this done. And I think one great lesson that I've learned from it, that the magic word in Raleigh, and my wife accuses me of always saying it's all about the money, but we know it's all about the money in getting things done. And in Raleigh, the regional approach is magic today. If you want to go ask for funding for, and I'll leave that open for what you're asking for, and you're asking for it from small town USA versus asking for it in a regional improvement concept, you're going to get a lot more if the region is part of it. And it's been to our luck and favor, I guess, in going to ask for funding because we were a regional effort. And, but it's clear to me that in the future, that's where things have to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, get to work.
Okay.
Thank you, Earl.
All right, next up on the agenda is the Johnston County Public Schools, a request for funds for school security. And I don't see Brooks here, but I believe David Pierce and Chairman Sutton are coming forward on that. We got more, we got a crowd coming up here. All right.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, it's great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about security in Johnston County Public Schools. I think everyone knows that we need to keep that at the forefront of our focus for our students, but also our staff. So we appreciate this opportunity tonight to come and discuss this opportunity with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pierce as well as Mr. Stephen Britt.
Good evening, Chairman Lauder, Vice Chair Harris, and members of the board. It's good to see you all this afternoon. So we come to you tonight with a request that none of us would have thought we needed when we went to school. Unfortunately, times have changed, and a next-level commitment to making our students and staff safe while on our campuses is a must. Before we get started on the request, I do need to share that information pertaining to school safety, including school safety plans, schematic drawings, and emergency action protocols, are considered confidential under the law and therefore inappropriate for discussion in a public session. Therefore, our request and conversation today will be primarily focused on safety-related equipment and our commitment to proactive measures. Most recently, Johnston County Public Schools applied for a grant through the Center for Safer Schools. I'm excited to share with you all this afternoon and the public that is watching that we were awarded 3 grants totaling $1,693,500. One of these grants was for $1,408,000, which will allow us to start the process of placing a school resource officer in every single Johnston County public school. This funding will only fund up to a portion of each officer's salary, but will make a significant impact in helping us obtain the vital measures and safety protocols we need for our school. The request you have before you this afternoon is additional commitments we feel are needed to provide the next level safety measures on our school campuses. What you will see before you is the purchase and installation of 54 stationary and 37 portable weapon detection systems at a cost of $7 million, the implementation of a prop door alarm system at a cost of $1,505,831.82, and an upgrade to our school security cameras at a cost of $1,100,000, for a total request of $9,605,831.82. I would like to point out that $1,500,000 of the recent successful bond will be used to help support this request. So at this time, that is our request. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, as well as Mr. Britt, our finance officer.
Any questions of the board?
Dr. Pierce, so we can assume moving forward, when we build additional schools, that will be part of the process of
Build out, yes, sir.
build out.
I have a question about the technical aspects of the equipment. What kind of life does it have? Not only physical life, but the state of the art. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so for what I can speak from is it comes out the gate with 7 years of warranty and updates. The expected life is 17 to 20 years as long as you continue to update it.
Right, I got you.
And could be longer, but we currently have devices that are being used across our county that we've been using a long time. Not this caliber, but using much longer than that.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I've had the opportunity to have numerous conversations with school board members and Dr. Pearson. They've really done a great job in pulling all this together and really focusing on the importance of keeping our children safe. And that is just utmost. I think I've heard many of our board members say that there's nothing any more important that we do than to keep our public safe. And our children certainly are of the highest priority. So with that being said, the weapons detection system, I do want to make sure that the board understands that the prop door alarm portion of it, we would be fronting the 1.505, 831.82, and then reimbursing after the first sale of the bonds, the $1.5 million back to the county. So that would be subtracted from that total number that Dr. Pierce gave. And with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve this for the schools and in the amount of the $9,605,831.82.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think that, Dr. Pierce, you know, part of this school bond and the most unsafe kids are those that are in mobile units, classrooms right now. And I think that's the reason for the commitment of this past bond, and also from the commitment from the board. I don't see them anymore, they leave. From the board, that they would take steps to replace additional mobile classrooms and put them in a brick and mortar facility. So, you know, I can't, I'm for this, but I'm also saying that we have got to step up and do something because they're at risk out there. We can protect them in a brick and mortar building, but kids going back and forth to bathrooms, you know, it's time that that we move from that. That's part of the safety, in my opinion.
I think we all agree.
Well, it appears that the bond referendum that the citizens just approved, if I understand correctly, will eliminate about 80 some mobile classrooms. Is that correct, sir? 83.
It says 83.
Okay, so that we're moving in the right direction. We just got to. I agree with Commissioner Brazel. We've got to focus on getting those mobile units out and getting the kids in building. But,
Enhanced cameras, they're only as good as somebody looking at them. We have personnel in place, I guess, to monitor these cameras.
Yes, sir. Okay. Gets a little into our safety protocols, but yes, sir.
I got you. Okay, I got you. The jury will disregard that remark.
Let me say there's some real advantages to these programs that they've presented. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Any other comments? All right. All in favor of the motion to approve the funding request, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
very much.
Chairman Sutton, I believe you have some comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you all for just passing that for Johnston County Public Schools. We all agree that safety is one of the most important things we do on a daily basis. But I did want to just come tonight and thank each and every one of you all that I've had the pleasure to working with over the past couple of years. Tomorrow night is my last board meeting as chairman of the Johnston County Board of Education. I just want to say thank you for the collaboration that both boards have shown the public that we can do what's right for Johnston County as far as the county is concerned, as well as the school system is concerned. So on behalf of myself and the Johnston County Board of Education, I would just like to say thank you to each and every one of you. So thank you all.
All right. Thank you for the role you played in that.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Next up, we have another request for funding, this time from My Kids Club. And we have Miss Lynn Daniel Bowles here to speak to us. So, Ms. Bowles.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Bowles, 101 Dogwood Lane in Four Oaks. And yes, the good news is that our request is less than 1% of the last two presentations. My Kids Club has consistently delivered daily after-school and summer camp programming to help students cement what they're learning in schools and to offer them additional opportunities. We serve 200 students annually at our two campuses in Selma and Smithfield. And since the pandemic, we have been supporting the students as they continue to re-engage in academics, recuperate from learning loss, and focus on healthy growth and development, including over the summer of partnership with the UNC Health Johnston Foundation. Our board of directors is comprised of local educators, business leaders, and community members. The mission of My Kids Club is to encourage and empower youth right here in Johnston County. A couple of highlights: 100% of our high school seniors graduate on time, 92% of club members are promoted to the next grade level on time, and we've served 28,000 healthy meals and snacks. 100% of our students attend Title I schools, and our students are as diverse as the schools that they represent. Since our beginnings in 2006, the Johnston County Commissioners have supported our mission. We sincerely appreciate our long historic relationship. With your support through the years, together we have supported thousands of children as they strive to reach their potential. We are humbled by your past years of support for the club and invite you to continue that support with $200,000 funding this calendar year. We hope you will grow with us throughout Johnston County as the need is great. Thank you so much for your consideration, and be on the lookout for an invitation for our groundbreaking for our new building that will help support January 30th. It's a Monday. We're very excited about our partnership with Barn Hill Construction.
All right, any questions from Ms. Bowles?
From what I understand, you're going to do some type of merger with the Wake County system.
Mr. Braz, will you lean in to get closer to the microphone? I don't know if they can hear you or not.
I understand that you're going to partnership with Wake County. Is that an understanding?
There was a letter of intent by the Boys and Girls Club of Wake County to reach out to our board, and so we'll be discussing that at our December meeting to also have a letter of intent. Wendy might could speak to it more, but we are in discussions to discuss.
I know in the past, it has been called the Boys and Girls Club of Johnston County. Will we go back to being the Boys and Girls Club again?
Previously, it was actually with Wayne County, and so checks were written to Wayne County, and so that, if we were to partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Wake County, we would actually be able to call ourselves the Boys and Girls Club of Johnston County. So checks would be written to Johnston County. So our local support raised would then be able to stay local. So that is definitely something that, because of past situations, we will be very aware of in our discussions.
Lynn, it's my understanding that you have funding in place for your new building.
Yes, sir. We completely raised that. Thank you. Appreciate the commissioners' help in supporting that. And yes, we are breaking ground. Barn Hill Contracting has been great to work with so far, and we're just looking forward to hopefully everything staying on schedule.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Leah, thank you for your presentation. What are you going to do with the money?
This would be for our operating, so this would continue to help fund salaries that are staying here right here in Johnston County. We offer competitive hourly wages for our counselors, which we're very proud of, and we do hope to expand throughout the county.
So what are the other funding mechanisms that you have?
Yes, sir. We have two campaigns. We run an annual campaign in May, and then the year-end campaign. We also have a 5K that we run every year, working with Town of Selma with the Railroad Days. That's always been very successful. And we have a grant writer that helps us. And so we do seek grants across North Carolina and nationally.
So will you be able to serve additional youth? You say 200 right now. Is by building the building and having the building, are you going to be able to serve additional?
Yes, sir. We are currently out of the mobile units at the Selma Elementary. We're very grateful for our partnership with the schools. We want to continue to work with the schools because what we're doing is just to add on to what they are doing during the daytime. And that's actually something that Wake Boys and Girls Club, I think, is very impressed with, how well we work with the schools, and we were able to use the Smithfield Elementary School facility as well. And so we would like to move into other schools throughout the county because we know part of it is the students, they can't get to us, so we need to go to where they are.
Any other questions? I do have one. So the potential, and I'm going to use the term mergers because it may not be wrong, with Wake County. So what is the big, obviously this is a significant investment in our part. So what is the benefit or largest benefit you see to our children in Johnston County that merger brings?
Recently we had, my kids club in Selma had a trunk or treat, and I was at Food Lion, I was buying some candy, and someone was like, oh, what's this, we're getting ready for Halloween. I was like, actually, I'm going to my kids club trunk or treat, and it So I think, well, and she didn't know what my kids club was, but people know what my boys and girls club is, and so I think it helps us continue to get our name out there, and I think it helps us expand our reach. And they are also an organization with a long, impressive history, and so they have additional programming that they can offer, and just like national resources that I think they can help bring to the kids of Johnston County.
Well, good. Well, maybe we'll have some advanced manufacturing training facilities ready to put them in those jobs.
Students are, our future.
Mr. Chairman, a former business associate of mine served as chair of their board. And I asked one time about, what were they doing? How was the results? She said it's all zero. And I thought that's not a good record. 0 juvenile delinquency, 0 dropouts, 0 teen pregnancy within that program. Now, we look at other things we fund, such as juvenile crime prevention and that sort of thing. I think this is a big step in preventing all of that.
To save some money.
That's right.
Down the road in that category. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one additional question. In the current year's budget, we allocated money for My Kids Club. We did not.
For the building.
Not the current one, it's for the building. Just want to make sure I remember
Yeah, so
correctly.
this would be just for operations,
Okay,
not for
thank
the
you.
building. Yes, sir.
And that, I would have preferred you had to have come at budget discussion,
Right, yes, sir.
personally.
Right.
Because, that's the time that, we normally handle this request. I understand by talking to a gentleman sitting back there in the back, he's from Selma originally one time, until they run him out and he went to Raleigh, I think. But, it flows much better for the budget time to handle those particular requests. But I'm not throwing any stones, I'm just simply saying.
Yes, sir.
I think in the future.
Very good, yeah.
Oh, and I just wanted to commend y'all for what you've been able to do primarily on your own. I think it's amazing, and like Commissioner Godwin said, it's so important that we give these kids a leg up everywhere that we can.
Thank you.
And be sure to plan field trips to the new Workforce Development Center.
Yeah, and y'all do an outstanding job over there.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And when we talk about I-95 corridor, as we did, some of us who live the I-95 corridor understand that we need all the assistance that we can get.
Yes, sir.
Because really, we got two different counties. We got anything west of 95 is tier 3 county, and down here with tier 2 county. So it is two different.
Yeah, I will comment on it. I'll say that's the beauty of this board is we live in a district, but we are elected county-wide, and I think this board does a great job of not saying, I want it for my district. We want to see the county as a whole improve. So whether that's on the I-95 corridor or somewhere else, that we want to see that across the board. And I think My Kids Club looks at that and is moving towards that as well. So any other discussion before we entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion, we provide the funds requested.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comment? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion is approved.
Well,
Thank y'all. Well done.
Thank you for all you do, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you for all that y'all do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Thad. Good job.
All right, after 3 requests for money, we're going to try to give some away. Actually, we already have it, yeah.
Chairman, can I just say, I feel like it's been a really good night for the kids of Johnston County tonight. A lot of positive things have moved forward, and I'm excited.
It's good for
All right, we'll call on Adrian O'Neill to present policy adjustments for open space fund disbursements.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Appreciate y'all having me tonight. And what I've got tonight is the open space fund disbursement policy. You should have that in your packets, and it should be on the agenda for everyone to see. Minor changes this time. Last time we dispersed funding from the open space funds was 2020. At that time, we dispersed $946,568, which all of that except $163,000 has been spent. We currently have approximately $1.8 million in the open space fund. And you have I won't go through the numbers, but you have the numbers in front of you on the policy. And the biggest change that you need to be aware of is that we will be reinstituting the 5% match for the communities and the partners this time.
And I did want to clarify on that, Mr. O'Neill, that these are funds that are collected outside of town limits in ETJs and unincorporated areas. Well, I guess that's all unincorporated areas. So.
They're collected in the county areas for developments, and it's fee in lieu of.
Okay. Any comments or questions on this? I mean, I think this is one of the, again, we're talking about making a difference, and it's not just children in this case, but the difference in the quality of life by providing recreational opportunities on monies that we collect for developments in there. So I think this is one of the better programs we have that can make an impact literally from one end of the county to the other. So.
And I will say these fees are through June 30th, so we've already started building the next pot with that, and we may have some funds that are returned out of this $163,000 that were not used during the last time. We did give them an extension last time due to shortage of materials and their ability to get materials. That was 12 months, and that will be ending probably in about 3 months, 4 months.
Adrian, are there adequate entities in each of these districts to handle these things, you know, the athletic associations and that type of thing?
There are, and they did a real good job of spending the money that was allocated last time. We had everything from ball field lights up in Corinth to playgrounds at Four Oaks. So we had a wide range of different things that the money was used for this past time.
I know there's some large amounts in certain high school districts such as West Johnston, Cleveland, Corinth holders, but I guess per student it probably averages out about the same. I mean, there's a large concentration of people in those.
It is, and it's related directly to the development of that area. So the money that is brought in that area for development really has to be spent in that generalized area. That's why it was based on the high school district.
Right.
Very good. All right. Any other comments?
The question at Hammond's chairman is to approve these changes noted here as far as the time.
Change to the policy.
If approved, the time period it will be open is December 15th through February 14th. Okay. So it'll give the partners and the towns ample time to apply. The application is very simple. It's not rigorous like some of the state and federal grant applications. So we make it as easy as possible for them to get it through. And in fact, we've got our grant writer now in the county, so he's also able to help them get shepherd these through.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the changes proposed.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion to amend the open space fund disbursement policy, please say aye.
Aye. Thank
Any
you for
opposed?
your
Motion
continued
carries.
support.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Mr. Braston Newton, our planning director, to discuss amendment to the MOU with the Upper Coastal Plain Rural Planning Organization.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board. You have before you an proposed amended memorandum of understanding concerning our Upper Coastal Plain RPO. The only amendment to this MOU is Section 2, and it replaces County of Nash with City of Wilson. City of Wilson will be now standing in as the lead planning agency for the RPO, or for the Upper Coastal Plain RPO. And staff does request your adoption of the memorandum of understanding as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about this. I've been representing the county in most of the transportation issues. I was at a meeting with the Highway 70 Corridor Commission last Thursday, in Wayne County, and there was something mentioned about Wilson not wanting to do this. Do you know if that's been a problem that's posed?
We haven't received no indication.
Okay.
All the communication among them,
Yeah.
the RPO members and from Wilson County or City of Wilson.
Right.
Is that they were willing to do such.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would certainly be in favor of this. I mean, the fellow who was housed in Nash County has changed jobs, and he's with Division 4 now, James Salmons, and he'll, as I understand, he'll still be doing this for a while until they get somebody in his
Until
place.
they get a replacement, yes, sir.
Yeah. So I move that we approve the change.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Braxton, in section 1, we're talking about section 2,
Yes, sir.
but I noticed in section 1, it's got the county of Wilson language in there.
I understand it's supposed to be the City of Wilson. I'll have to ask the RPO leadership, James Salmons particularly, about that.
Do you see it in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Appears to be a typo.
All right. Any other comments, questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, we have continued discussion of our draft comprehensive land use plan. And Braxton, do you have any comments? I know we've asked the board to come forward with comments, questions, concerns, and present those to you. And do you have any comments before I turn it over to the board?
Just one real quick. So some of the discussion the last time we discussed the land use plan was an amendment. We're amending or bringing back a proposal to amend the map and take out some of these, the so-called donut holes. So we are analyzing that. We will have that map for you at your December 5th meeting.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If not, I'll turn it over to the board for the first one that wants to fire away with their questions, comments, and I'll say if you want to, we'll allow each board member to raise their questions at one time. That way we don't jump around all over the place. So anyone want to volunteer to go first?
Mr. Chairman, I've looked at this thing closely since our last meeting and read through it. I like the plan. I think the group put together a good plan. The trick is going to be getting from here to there as far as ordinance changes and implementing these proposals. But overall, I like the plan. I can't point to anyone and say, I don't like this aspect of it. I think it generally reflects what I wanted to see in the plan. As far as pushing density to the municipalities, obviously with some encouragement and assistance from the county probably, but trying to keep open space open and taking advantage of density where it should be.
All right. Anyone else?
You know what my comments are going to be? Get a little,
Yeah, lean it
Yeah.
closer to that microphone.
Yep. That's the first thing you got to learn,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Our utilities. We're being very aggressive to tackle the problems that have come upon us with water and sewer. Right now, we've given authorization to our utility department to start upgrading the systems and looking into future expansions and all. And it's going to be extremely important. But along with that additional treatment capacity of whether it's wastewater or water, we need to look at some changes. I think the state allows us to recycle 20% of our effluent from our wastewater facility back into our water treatment facility. And that sounds like a bad thing, but the real truth of the matter is the water that we send back in the river from our wastewater treatment plant is cleaner than the water we take out for the intake of our water plant. We have upstream contributors that put their wastewater in plant, and so a lot of the things that we pick up in our water plant we have to add treatment for. All this water is held in a large sedimentation storage type facility outside the plant before it's fed to the plant. It has ample time for sediment aeration and various processes that take place. But along with that, with the improvements and the things, I think we need to look at some new innovative type ways because the Neuse River as a drinking water source and a source for our wastewater is not going to be here forever. The Neuse River will be here forever, but it's not going to be able to keep taking the nutrients and all that are placed in the river. It's very nutrient sensitive. So I think we need to look at other ways, other areas. I think we need to look at cooperation with adjoining counties. The Cape Fear is it has no nitrogen limits. However, we've got to make sure that we have an agreement or we have cooperation from those powers to be to make sure that we can start doing some type of joint partnership. But I also think that we have an opportunity now, while two of our newest municipalities, Wilson Mills and Archer Lodge, they are able to expand, and we are basically their sewer provider, their water and sewer department. We're everything. And I think that if we're going to be, that we ought to start making very sincere and aggressive, have aggressive meetings with the towns that have the water and sewer system that are looking at. There's a lot of places that we have county facilities, and a quarter of a mile down the road there's a municipal facility, and our people look after pump stations. They either do water taps. They're specific tradesmen. But in these towns, the guy that looks after the water system is just as much responsible a lot of times for the garbage pickup, streets, everything else. So as a general rule, the training and the resources are not there for their employees that we'd like they are for the county. And it's so much duplication. And I feel that one of our better moves as a county would be to try to work out some regional system where the county is because you heard it said tonight when Harold was here, anytime the state has to deal with several small towns, it's a lot easier if they have one entity like the county to deal with. It's going to get a lot of stuff handled quicker. You want to have more time at the county because we have departments that can handle that. So I just think there's so much to be gained by moving forward with letting the town of Wilson Mills and the town of Archer Lodge know that we're going to be their water and sewer provider, and we're going to be part of that. That's going to be the start of our centralized water and sewer authority. And I know there's some legal loops we got to go through, and I know there's a lot of meetings going to have to be had to get the cooperation from these towns. But I think that's where it's headed, whether it's next year, 2 years down the road, or 10 years down the road. This is something, you look at every county around us. I can remember when I first started water and sewer construction in 1975, Apex had its own water plant, Cary had its own water plant, Marsville had its own water plant, Garner had its own. Now they are all part of the city of Raleigh's regional water and wastewater treatment system. And they don't have a water and sewer department anymore. It's the county water and sewer, or city of Raleigh water and sewer department. The city of Raleigh actually took that over. So look at those counties. Charlotte, it's the same way. In Mecklenburg, it's the same way. Your larger counties had to go that way. It's just we have the control of most of the facilities. Now, when we look at what water we produce and what water we take back in, the water we send to Kenley and Princeton and Micro and Clayton and Benson is not recapped. This goes to their waste treatment plant. But a lot of the water we put in the system, like 7.8 million gallons a day, comes to our sewer plant. So we've got a lot of the responsibilities for the spills and everything. We just need to be able to have the staffing and have it whether they're under a controlled supervision, that they get the proper training and proper equipment, and I think the county would be better suited to do that.
I can't argue with any of that. I don't want to get off on my utility
Yeah, but I
discussion of that.
That's my feelings, and Sheriff, that, and I would be very interested in the broadband when I think Rick is meeting with those people to see if they're going to cover some of the areas like down that we talked about our districts and down in Meadow and those areas. Brogdon, Bentonville, all those areas, there is horrible internet service down that way. And even, I think, in your area. So we certainly want to see, we don't want to just see a bunch more lines laid in areas where they got good service. We want to start spreading the love, share the benefits. That's all I got.
All right.
I'll go ahead and say my 2 cents. I'll
All right.
piggyback on Commissioner Broswell and Commissioner Godwin. I agree with the regionalization of sewer. I think we've got to be forward-thinking in that with the growth that we have. There's, that's the only way we're going to move the ball forward quicker, in my opinion, is to partner with our neighboring counties, and it's just going to be a benefit for the greater good. I also agree with Commissioner Godwin I like the plan as a whole. My biggest thing is I feel like we need to go deep instead of wide. I think one of the things I noticed, I loved the depiction that they did of McGee's Crossroads, obviously of that being my district, but the way they laid it out, all that land right there at the at 210 and the exit have been for sale for as long as I can remember, and it's not been developed yet. But the way they laid this out was a very well thought out plan to have mixed use, residential, commercial that we all felt like, just about everything listed there is listed to be commercial. It just hasn't come yet. And the flow that they created going down 210 is exactly what I feel like that exit should look like. So I was really impressed with their depiction of that. And for that is why I say we need to go deep. I think, and Bryson helped me with this term, I think we need to have a long-term use plan that also allows for small area plans. And within that, when we're working on our ordinances and things like that, that we give the planning board more authority to deny communities if they do not conform to the contiguous uses. So I was in California this past week, and it was really nice to drive 4 miles down one road, and there was sidewalks along, there was subdivisions, but there was tree lines, there was sidewalks. It wasn't just neighborhood. Drive entrance into a neighborhood. You had to drive a good half mile to a mile before you saw the actual entrances to the neighborhood. And I really liked, like they said, I think they called them the super streets, to where we're not putting all that traffic on our major roads. We're condensing, the multifamily, we're condensing the residential and the commercial together, utilizing the utilities that are there and keeping it from being as sprawling as there is. If there is going to be sprawl, then it needs to be spread out, in my opinion. So I think there's I would like to get very detailed, I guess, instead of it being a blanket of across the board of, one size fits all. I don't think that's going to work in Johnston County anymore. And I think we have to be very specific in certain areas and how they're growing and how they should be growing and making sure we're looking at the future growth.
Is that all? Is that
That
full
was all
2
I
cents?
had.
Is that
Sorry.
full 2 cents?
That was my full 2 cents.
All right. All right. Commissioner Harris, Braswell, Smith.
Okay.
I defer right now.
This is, as April says, we've got to go deep and take this vision and take it to execution, which is in our zoning ordinances. For me, there are 3 main points I'd like to talk about tonight. And first one, I want to pass an article out. I'm not a fan of the New York Times, but this is an article that was published on November 13th. And it was a good article. It's about the South Dakota family and some Florida families. It was based on the fact that farmland values hit high records, pricing out farmers. And it talked about the challenges that farmers have to stay in business. And land to a farmer is just like inventory is to other businesses. And so I would recommend you, at your leisure, to read that article.
Have you got another copy? I'm short one over here.
There you go.
I thought I made one enough for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought there was.
Are we one short?
Yeah,
Actually, the two of them were stapled together. There we go. There's one. I got it.
Okay.
we're good.
They were put together.
So, when we talk about land use planning for Johnston County, we can start off right at the top. That 75% of the land in this county is either farmland or vacant land. So that is a huge part of what we're dealing with. And they talk a lot in this study about viable agriculture and protecting the county's working lands. I don't know what that means. I do know that if people are going to be using the land as a business of farming, and that article points out the difficulties of that the farms have to be both profitable and sustainable. And that most farmers, when they start farming, they don't have an exit strategy. They just want to farm. But they also know that one day they will need an exit strategy. And I think most farmers want to be free to use their land to their best economical use. And I think if the government wants to take the land like they do for schools or for roads and pay for it, that's fine. We just need to do that. But if we're not going to do that, to tell people what they can and can't do with their land, from a moral standpoint, is nothing more than coveting someone else's land, which is wrong. And from a legal standpoint, is taking the value of their property. And I don't think we want to do that. In this article and in Johnston County and in this study, it talked about the increasing unprofitability of the agricultural land in Johnston County. And we've said many, many times that we are two counties, so to speak. We're divided. The western part of I-95 is where the Piedmont and coastal plains meet. And if you want to talk about farming, if you're on the western side of 95, you're on the wrong side of the county, because the soil types are not conducive to profitable farming. Farm size is limited. The farms are small. On page 42, it talks, or 43 in the study, that 51% of the farms in Johnston County are less than 50 acres. Less than 50 acres. How do you make a living on less than 50 acres of land? 51%. And so not only west of I-95 is the farm size small. When you have small fields, you've got to move the equipment from field to field to field, which, number one, is inefficient from a diesel standpoint, fuel today, but also with traffic, makes it extremely hard to move equipment. So viability of and sustainability of agriculture west of I-95 is problematic over a period of time. And when you go east of I-95, farms become much more viable. They're larger farms and they're clearly better soils. So I think I think that's what we need to remember, that whatever rules we come up with, we're going to be talking about 75% of the land. We're going to be talking about different abilities to use the land profitably and sustainably in a business. And we want to be sure that we don't take property rights from our citizens as we implement this plan. I'm all for encouraging agriculture. I love agriculture as much as anyone in this county. And we have to do that, as it talked about on page 42, about the present use value program. That article I just passed out said the average farmer in the United States was subsidized 49% of their revenue last year. So you got the federal government subsidizing them through their farm programs. You got counties subsidizing them through present use values. And so the reason that that those things are necessary is to continue to make, because we have generally, or have had until the past 2 years, a cheap food policy in America, which is changing rapidly in the past 2 years. But I think that's something that's important that we consider. So that's my agricultural piece. I want to talk about goals, and I want to go to page 65. If we're going to continue to have agricultural, then, and we're going to continue to meet the needs of people who want to move to this county, and they do, and they will. On those goals, the first goal that they outline on page 65 is that physically efficient, that it's physically efficient, compact growth lessens the tax burden. Physically efficient, compact growth lessens the tax burden.
Commissioner Smith, my page number is different than yours. Can you tell me what section? Is there a section number?
Okay, well, this is, maybe I got an old one.
It looks like that.
It's in section 2.
Section 2? Okay.
Section
Maybe
3.
section 3,
It's the first-
sorry, yes, sir.
First thing in section 3.
Okay.
Goals.
Keep going, I'll catch up.
Well, it just says the first goal is to have physically efficient, compact growth, which will lessen the tax burden. If you're going to have that type of growth, as Commissioner Braswell pointed out, you can't do that without water and sewer. You've got to have water and sewer. And, you know, I've done this in the past. Building houses and developing is nothing more than taking different, it's like a building, like a child taking Legos and putting them together to build a project. You've got to take bits and pieces, lumber, framers, HVAC,
Mason.
windows, doors, land. You just put them together. Whatever that cost is, you add what you can to it and pass it along to the customers, like every other business does that. Patrick, you buy food, put it together, have people to do it, put some profit on it, pass it on to the customer. It's not magic. And part of the ability, when we worry about water and sewer, that's nothing more than like the lumber in the house. We just need to do it, pass it on. And so we can have efficient, compact growth. It doesn't need to be an impediment that we can't produce water and sewer. It's just who said something about it's all about money?
That was Harold.
Yeah, it's all about money. It's just about money. Just, you do it, put it in the house or commercial thing, pass it on to the customer. Then you can do the type of growth that's efficient and not waste land that should and could be preserved for agricultural use. So, and goal 4 there was that development quality is improved and remains high. That's really the only way that I'm aware of you can have quality growth. It's by compact growth that allows you to have mixed-use growth, allows you to have commercial, allows you to have residential. It all is mixed together. People can walk. People can get where they need to get without getting out on the highway. And it's a very efficient use of your infrastructure. And it also does what Goal 6 talks about there, which is give housing choices. A lot of people want a big house, a big yard. A lot of people want a small house, a small yard. Some people want a town home and no yard. Everybody has a different thing of what they want. And so I think, again, to give housing choices, to have quality development, we need to be talking about compact development, which also allows us to keep our farms as long as possible. So they're the things that I'd love to see us concentrate on as we move forward into our zoning implementation.
All right. Commissioner Harris?
I'm probably going to circle back around to Commissioner Godwin, honestly, because I've looked at it several different times and I've gone through it, and then, one of the things that someone said this, and I don't know if it was someone on this board or someone else I was talking to, we put a lot of effort into choosing a company and in appointing a very diverse group of citizens in the county to provide input for this, and then we had all those series of meetings, and so, when I look at the end product that they've produced, I don't have a lot of huge issues with it. I mean, I think I think everyone brings up very valid points. Commissioner Smith with his growth thoughts, I think are very valid points. But to make a long story short, I don't have a lot of significant changes that I think need to be made to the plan as it has been presented. I think there's some tweaks, and I think where the rubber's going to meet the road is how we convert that into ordinances and get it to where it's enforceable and or understandable from a citizen, builder, developer, farmer perspective. Yeah.
If I might add something,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. I think what Commissioner Smith said, I don't think any of us has said anything that's not congruent. If we all agree these goals are good, we might have differing opinions on which goals should have priority. As Mr. Smith pointed out, several here, and I don't disagree with that. But I haven't found any goal that I really think we ought to change in here. While we might approach it from different priorities, they're all the same. I mean, they're all the same goals. And I think it's a good working document. Again, the trick is how do we get from here to there, and which road do we take to get there? But I think the destination is fairly congruent.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add, Commissioner Smith's always said we need to do quality development. We don't need to just put in streets and roads and lots. We need to add some amenities, and I have to commend him on every one of his projects I've ever seen. I've been impressed with, because when you go out to Las Vegas or somewhere like that, when they do a development, they require you to build the parks. You got to have a grocery store. You got to contribute to a school where 4 or 5 of the subdivisions get together and they have a school. It may be a very small school, but they have all the amenities right there where they can walk. They're not driving 10 miles away or whatever to go to Walmart or whatever. And that's this. When we take and make 1 acre lots or lots larger than 1 acre as a requirement, we're going to be back to address that. Maybe not this board, but one board in the future is going to be back to address that, because at the rate we're growing and the fact that people want to hold on to farmland, then you're going to run out of land for the growth we have. It's going to be a situation of, where do we get the ground to actually do all this? That's one of the requirements to get the thing started. But, we do have 2 different counties here, and like we said, west of I-95 has been for as long as I can remember, it's been a booming metropolis almost. And then we come down to east of I-95, we got the little small towns, and not a lot happening. For instance, I even kicked around making a recommendation for down around Bentonville and Meadow and those areas, some type of incentives to, those people have to drive a tremendous way just to go to a Walmart or to get health care or anything. And these little strip malls, maybe somebody might want to do something to bring something down to that area. There might be some incentives we could offer to help see something like that happen. But growing is going to bring pains, and we can address those pains, and we can talk about it, or we can do something about it. And I think we need to do something about it.
We'll add one additional thing to that, and I was thinking about what Commissioner Smith said. And my daughter was here over the weekend, and we had we talk a lot, just kind of catching up. And you know, the housing thing is really an interesting perspective when you look at the different age groups of people. And her generation, her friends, they have no desire to have a big yard and a big house and a big lot to have to take care of. She's watched me mow 2 acres of grass for years, and she can look at me and tell, I have no desire whatsoever to do that, Dad. But so it's interesting. I mean, they want a nice, but they want it compacted. They want it maybe just a small little area of lawn that they can maybe put a picnic table or something, you know, put a little patio table. But they don't want big land. And so I think, you know, we've got to not try to make it one size fits all. I mean, I think we need to look at a combination of those things as well. Because it's interesting. Different people have different needs and desires. And it'll be interesting. I will say that this, you know, I think if we wait to have the plan perfect, I don't think we're ever going to get it done. Right. I think at some point we've got to roll on with it and then go back and, you know, will it always need to have some tweaks and adjustments? Yeah, it probably will. And we need to look at it frequently to make those, but we got to push on with it and make something.
Scott, you know, I don't know your daughter, but if she's like most of those her age, she wants a place to take Billy and Susan to a park to play, and a swimming pool to swim in,
Gotta have
and a
pool.
trail to walk on.
If she don't have a pool, that's a deal breaker.
That's what I'm telling you. That's what she wants. She don't want a more yard.
No.
She wants a place to have a quality of life in her development that she doesn't have to drive 5. And I'm not against parks. They don't want to put them in the car, buckle them up in the seats, and drive 5 miles to a park to play. They want to play right there. And we have the power to require developers to build quality products. I mean, whether we'll exercise that or not, I don't know, but we can do that. And I think we have a chance, a chance to do that. And you know, I've read this report too, and I'm not a kumbaya guy, so I'm not going to say how great it is, okay? It's good. When you do planning, you got to have goals, you got to have objectives, and you got to have policy. Your goals sort of talk about what do we want this place to look like, and they did a good job of that. They did a good job of saying, this is the goals, this is what we got to do. But goals without implementation are nothing more than a dream. And so you have to have an objective, which has to be measured. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So we have to have, okay, we got this goal. What's our objective going to be? How are we going to measure achieving our goal? And I think there we started to break down a little bit. And then you get to policy. What action? Policy is what action is required to achieve your goals and objectives. And I think it was weak there. So I think somewhere along, whether it be Braston earning salary to come up with the policy, I don't know how we're going to get there, but I think I think that's where we got to go. Just a goal is not enough. We got to have an objective, and we can measure this, and then policies as to how we can implement it. That's the heavy lifting that's still left that's not in this plan.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the questions I was going to have. There's a lot of these goals we can achieve, like we talked about, creating ordinances, changing, some of our land use plans and really digging into those. The only one I can't figure out, goal number 8 is something that we can't change with ordinances, and that is farmland is preserved and the agricultural industry continues to thrive. We can create all the ordinances but we can't create that. So I know we've had a lot of conversations about that on the board of, what can we do? It may not be an ordinance per se or something the planning board has control over, but something as county commissioners that we can do and I know we've thrown around a couple of creative ideas, to ensure that some farmland is preserved, especially like Commissioner Smith said, in areas where it makes most sense to have agriculture versus housing. So that's another, it's a goal we have that we don't have a direct answer as to how we solve that. We can't solve that with an ordinance. So that was one that just kind of stuck out to me. That's going to have to be an add on how we solve that goal.
I'm always amazed by people wanting to use other people's land for their enjoyment. It just constantly amazes me. That land that the farmer has is part of his business. Suppose we said, as I was talking with Patrick, suppose we said our goal is to have 20 barbecue restaurants in Johnston County, and therefore we're going to make all the barbecue restaurants do this or do that. People would think you're crazy. But there's no difference in that. That's the barbecue restaurants, their business. A farmer's tractors and cattle and land is their business. And I think to assume we can tell them what to do with their assets is, I think we can help them, I think we can motivate them, I think we can reward them, do all those things. I'm for doing all those things. But
the average age of a farmer in Johnston County today is 58 years old. 10 years ago, it was 42 years old. They're getting older, and the younger kids are not staying in farming. Look at just this year alone, they got almost a triple of costs for nitrogen, fertilizer, lime. Everything is at least doubled for them.
Diesel fuel.
If the market gets tighter and tighter and the profit margins get less and less, these people aren't doing it for fun. It's, they're doing it for a profit. If there's no profit, they're not going to do it. And to go back on what Patrick said there, I've always said people do not want to mow grass. They want to go to the beach, they want to enjoy their communities, and they want to play golf. And they don't want to be bothered with mowing grass and trimming hedges and yard work. That's the thing of the past. But quality communities, we're going to have to pass it on, but we're going to have to be careful because starter homes are out of the reach of young people nowadays, just because of the vast cost of building supplies and the supply line issues. It's almost getting out of reach for young people to be able to get a starter home anymore. The price has almost doubled in the last 4 years. And that's crazy because people, never before have I seen it where someone could have bought a home 4 or 5 years ago and made payments on it and suddenly flip it and make $140,000, $150,000. That's just not real. We've got an awfully inflated economy right now with stuff like that. But yet many people did that. A lot of people sold their homes, and from what I understand, there's a lot of investor groups buying these homes and holding on to them. So we don't know. We don't have control over that kind of stuff. And it's hard to track that knowledge, too, to keep that data.
It was interesting when you use the business analogy and you think about the farm being the same thing.
Yeah.
Victoria and I have been blessed over the years to have had numerous businesses, and some of them we did all right with, and some of them maybe not so much, And I always said that a business that doesn't make money is a hobby, and I didn't really need another hobby. So we get rid of the ones that don't make money, and we kept the ones that did, and or sold them later. And but I had the freedom to be able to do that. And so if I wanted to sell that business, I had the freedom to do it, and nobody was regulating me to keep me from it. And so it's interesting when you compare it to a business, but that really is what the farm is. It's a business.
Well, if the truth be told, more than 50% of the farms in Johnston County are hobby farms. It's just a way of life, want to come home, have a little farm. But they're not they're not viable from a business standpoint. And I had this experience this year. If you want to, well, you keep using barbecue, if we're going to have barbecue in Johnston County and have barbecue in Hyde County, it's going to be the same, right? Hogs are going to cost about the same. Vinegar's going to cost about the same. Everything's going to cost about the same. You can sell it for about the same thing. Well, I watched Ben Simmons in Hyde County and rode on the combine and watched him pick 220 bushel an acre corn on over 1,000 acres. At the same time, I watched Randy Edwards, who talked to us last time, plant corn on some of my land. He had to turn it in to get a payment from crop insurance and had to mow the corn down because there wasn't any corn. Same year, same crop. One is going to gross $1,500 an acre in corn. The other is going to lose money. And it's just, it has to do with soil type, it has to do with rain, it has to do with a lot of things. And so you just can't put agriculture in a box and standardize it.
I'll be done in a minute, I promise. Can I revisit one more thing that you said, Commissioner Harris, and I don't know if this is something we add to this, but I really like what you said about making sure that we review this. Is that something we could put as a part of this plan, is when we have our annual retreat, at least every 2 years, we review and look to revise the comprehensive land use plan so we can ensure that it doesn't sit on a shelf? Is that feasible?
You're talking about as part of our regular...
The planning,
our strategic.
Yeah, the strategic. Mm-hmm.
I think we can discuss. To me, that's big enough. That needs to be something discussion. So I don't know what that frequency is yet, but it needs to be on a regular basis. So I think that's one thing we've talked about, and I think the steering committee and all talked about. At some point, we've got to implement it, but there also has to be an evaluation of how we're implementing it. So I think all that goes hand.
I think the important thing moving forward with this is to understand that once we finish it, we're not done with it. So you can't just wash your hands and walk away and don't worry about it for another 10 years. I mean, it's got to be something that we address frequently and look at it and make sure that we evolve as the county changes.
Yeah, I think those future incremental changes rather than huge changes once a decade.
Yes.
Are going to be much easier to handle rather than what we're doing now, making one every 11 years. So.
I'm going to make my last point. If we're going to be responsible for the type of developments that we have and the type of mixed-use communities and those things, we need to be the final authority to approve them. The planning board needs to recommend and has a role to do that. But at the end of the day, we are responsible for whether we're going to have water and sewer. We're responsible for these rules, and we need to have the authority to see it through to the end, to create quality development.
Commissioner Brazel?
Okay.
You ready to jump in now?
Yeah, I deferred.
All right. To the second half? All right.
To the second half, it's a home game, so it's the last quarter. My biggest concern is that we all talk about pushing development closer to the municipalities. So the big question is, how do we do that? and it goes back to what a lot of folks said, and to start with Dickie, we can't push them there unless we have a municipal sewer district somewhere around in those areas, because they're not going to, we're going to push them there, but they don't have the resources and everything to do that. I'm not I came from a farm myself, but there's a lot of difference between picking 80 bushels of corn on sandy land in Brogden versus what they do at Hyde County. But I'm concerned about how we find equalization in the virtual towns that we are now the mayor and the commissioner of, McGee's, in the Cleveland area, and we don't have any control over Flowers, so that's been done. But I remember the day when every school was inside of the city limits of a town. And I'm not saying that was perfect. It was just the way we were. Now they're spread out throughout those areas, which is good. You got to build schools where the kids are. But we've got to make some hard decisions on, first of all, again, it's easy to say that we're going to push them towards the town, but then how do we do that? And how is that going to happen? Primarily because the resources. Now, the resources that, we talk about two different counties between the east and the west, it certainly isn't equivalent to what we do. And if you say it's equivalent by people, you'd be right. It's, they have the number of people over there. But the resources, and I just don't want to see urban sprawl. I want to see it managed in a different, I take full responsibility of what happened in some of the other areas because I've been here so long. But this is going to be the future, which I'm not going to be here and in the future, but I want it to look decent. I don't have any of the answers, none of the answers. But I think there's a big conversation about what all has to be done when we say that we're going to move them towards the municipalities. It's just a big conversation to be had. And again, it's a lot of expense, Dickie, on maintaining sewer out there, water out there, for those towns in which we provide it for now. So that's all I got to say. I'm going to be, I think it's a pretty good plan. It's a vision, but I think we got to understand when we do our ordinances that this is a sort of a roadmap, but we actually going to be the GPS when we start doing the ordinances, in my opinion.
Tony, I want to pile on and agree with you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Wait a minute, hang on. Let me see.
They,
We got it recorded. It's recorded. Yeah, it is recorded.
they talk about support the municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
That's a goal. Tell me how we're going to do that.
That's what
What are we going to do? Are we going to give them money? Are we going to financially give them money? Is that how we're going to support them? Are we going to make road improvements for them? Are we going to give them water and sewer? Are we going to give them land? What are we going to do to support the municipalities? It's a goal, but has little or no specifics as to how you implement that.
Excuse me.
And maybe it's an ETJ. But you know what we can't do in the ETJs? We can't enforce the code. The city won't enforce it. We don't enforce it. It's a never land where there's no code enforcement in ETJs. So, and you've got cities that got water and sewer pipes that leak. their infiltration. And we have one city that comes up constantly asking us for money to deal with drainage. And so I don't know how we support municipalities and coordinate with them when they don't have the financial resources to do what needs to be doing. And I think when they talked about, and I think April was talking about, in an unincorporated area where we built a mixed-use development that has both commercial, residential, recreational, that's something we can get our hands around and have some control over. And I think to say that we can't do that and that can only be done in municipalities is it's not the right way to go.
Well, I think, actually, us coming from municipality backgrounds, serving, the ETJ, if you actually look at the literal meaning of what it means, in other words, we give the opportunity to the towns to make the decision what they want to look like out there. But again, they don't have any enforcement. They're not doing things to, it goes with the territory. So, as we expanded it, I remember when it was 1 mile, and then we went to 2 miles, in which the legislature gave us the authority, and it went to 2 miles ETJ. But again, they didn't have the resources to even provide regulations in that area when we gave them additional. In fact, we threatened one place to take it away. But,
Well, educate me on that. Is that not one of those things like, and one of their, in the report on direct future growth towards municipalities, it says coordinate with municipalities on available land supply and possible ETJ expansion requests. So is that not one of those things where it's somewhat of a, if you build it, they will come? I mean, if they grow their territory and they have a larger tax base, will that not increase their opportunities to deliver more services because we're kind of feeding?
They do not have a tax base in the ETJ. All the ETJ does is give the city the right to say, if you're going to build something on this land, you need to build it the way we want to have it built, because one day we're probably going to incorporate you. That's all ETJ. Extraterritorial jurisdiction or zoning. That's it. And for every other purpose, it's in an unincorporated area. And of course, we get into, Jennifer could probably give us a 30-minute lecture on problems that we have in those areas, because it's a never land.
Well, I will say on the ETJs, having been in local government and the town board for many years, I think the thought behind ETJs is typically there's not water and sewer available in unincorporated areas in ETJs. So if someone wants to incorporate, get more density, the incentive for them is water and sewer. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it is. And then as far as ETJs and enforcement, I think the planning and zoning piece is pretty straightforward. The problem is when there's a violation, and I don't know which way. One of it is we got it in one section of our code, it's in another section of the town's code. So that's the no man's land that we find ourselves in. I don't think it's overall. I mean, I think it's clear that if you're in the ETJ of Princeton, you follow Princeton's rules on development of whatever parcel you've got. It's when you get into the enforcement. So I agree with that. And but I did want to jump in. I think it's the Daddy and the Darling family said, jump in and hang on, because I've got about 2 pages of stuff that I want to bring. I'll be brief on most of it. But I will say, I want to start off by saying I think and I'm not going to sing Kumbaya, but I do think we have good bones for the land use plan. I think some of the things, as Commissioner Stevens had mentioned, there are going to be policies that we have, such as agreements with towns, and exactly what that looks at, like that will not be in the details of this plan because it's a vision, but we will have to develop that because implementation of this plan is where the rubber meets the road on this thing. I mean, this is a vision, but with the ordinances and policies and other things we put in place, that will be how we accomplish this vision. So with that said, and I found out the reason I didn't have section 2 or 3, which because I only brought section 4. Which we did not. So I'm gonna start with section 4.
So you don't have any,
No,
you don't have any notes except section
I don't
4.
have any.
Section 4 is all you're gonna talk about.
Yeah, and I'll be brief, and we can talk about these at another time, but I'm gonna start off, right off where we are, and I was gonna say, I guess it's article, section 1, the land use 1, direct growth towards the towns. I think that's ultimately what we need to do. A key part of that will be regionalization. I just do not see a way that we can implement this plan if we're dependent on individual towns to handle, particularly water and sewer, that there's going to have to be some overarching authority, whether that's us or a true authority that's going to handle this, and it's not going to be the Neuse River that's going to solve all our problems and enabled us to handle the growth. So that was page 84, land use 1. On page 85, we talk about mixed use in unincorporated areas. And I just want to make sure that we identify where those areas are. And I don't have the map in front of me either, but make sure in those in the mixed use in unincorporated areas is something we generally say where that is. You mentioned McGee, but where that is, that we kind of direct that to where we want to see it. Page 89, got some pretty pictures in between there. One thing we talk about reimagining and reinventing employment centers. One thing that I didn't see in here is, is the parking, addressing the parking, because, when now I think our ordinance is a massive amount of parking, and how do we address that and incentivize employers in these centers to have reduced parking or get reduced parking requirements. Let's see. Land use on page 90. I generally like that, the more intense residential development, but with that may come, and I think it mentions it in here, some additional land types that aren't currently on our land use map. So as you're looking at that, I think as we're talking about mixed use development, that we indicate where we would prefer to see that. Page 91 has got some nice pictures, but I do like the requirement for the open space and active. I like active remediation. I mean, remediation, that doesn't, I'm in environmental business. But let's say recreation. Let's go with recreation, but some making sure that as we have future developments that we do raise the bar for the quality that we're expecting out, particularly with our open space and recreational amenities. LU 6 on page 92. Let's see. I do support that we figure out, again, this is, and I know Commissioner Smith has referenced this before, Commissioner Stevens mentioned it tonight, but the policies that we're considering and looking at to enable farmers to, if they make a profit, at least break even. How do we look at, how do we participate in programs, create policies to make that possible? Or with existing funds we have, how do we help with the preservation of that farmland? And then in that is on page 93, and I don't know exactly what this fleshes out to be, but the purchase of development rights programs, I think that's, probably something we need to take a look at. Again, I have an idea what that means. I don't know what that looks like in real life, but I think that's something that it may be, again, not part of the land use plan update since we referenced it, but for us to flesh that out as we move.
Butch,
Yes.
didn't you watch Yellowstone last night?
No, I started too late watching Yellowstone, so I've got to wait till I can watch all of it in like
I
one
mean, you would
weekend.
got an education on the conservation easement. That's what it was all about.
Well, I think when we go back to that, President, the conservation easements, there's a multitude of programs out there, and I
Mr.
think
Dutton, how you doing, sir?
yeah, we're working on that. Yeah, I need to do. Now I've seen the TikTok things where I'm gonna get some clothes and dress like that, but I might have to consult with you on that. So let's see. I got out of order in my notes here, so. And then one thing is on page 95 is the buffers, a residential agriculture buffer. We mentioned, it mentions 30 feet in here for adjoining properties. I think that's probably a minimum that we need to look at, but as we go into our ordinances, let's think about what that looks like. It also mentions limited utility extensions, but again, that goes to the regional plan. And also, we have to look at our allocation policies, which I think we're in the process of looking at, and then decide where do we want to send our water and sewer. Economic development on page 96. A couple of things I think we're already looking at. Making public utilities available, including natural gas. We've done a couple of things in the last couple of years to make sure we're getting natural gas in places that hadn't been before. We talk about encouraging the I-95, I-40 Crossroads Alliance, and then also continue to promote the assets that make us a viable community, and part of that is a skilled workforce. Let me see. They go faster now. I would give these to you, but I can barely read what I wrote, so I'm going to try to go. Got that. Then jump to page 101. Generally, the open space in general I like, but let me jump to page 101. Because again, I would say encourage open space and add somewhere in there. It does mention passive and active, but I think as we look at our ordinances, that's probably a place where we can look to strengthen those. Page 102, CDD 1. It talks about establish higher standards for new development. And again, is how do we, through our policies and procedures, how do we incentivize that? And I guess our ordinances too, how do we incentivize that higher quality development that I think all this board wants to look at. And then CDD2 on the next page, 103. I think that, again, as we get our plan, and we've talked about this on the map, is making sure we identify those areas, particularly on the map, that people are going to look at as a guide to where those areas are going to be. And one, I guess on the healthy living section, I was a little, I get that we want to be healthy, and I think part of the open space and active and then passive stuff that we do is on there. But one thing that puzzled on LL5, I'm not sure exactly what that means on health in all policies approach. It seems to me it's another hurdle that we've got to clear. It's not very clear to me. And then, the thing, the little graphic it has, I get access to health services. I get that piece, but how through our land use plan do we impact mental health and substance abuse, heart disease and stroke? I think goes with, to me, recreation. I think do that respiratory disease, and then transportation kind of makes sense. But I'm not quite clear on how this health in all policies helps us on the land use and exactly what that means. Page 108, Parks and Recreation. I guess I'll say I think we're making progress on that. We have the trails and greenway plan. One thing that we talked about it, and it takes money to do all of this. And one thing we considered 4 years ago when Commissioner Harris and I got on here was a special use district tax district for recreation. And as we look at where these things are concentrated, you know, that, again, it's a policy, it's not in this plan, but I don't even think it references in this plan, but I think we need to look at all our options to how we continue to fund, because you get into the two sides of the county, and right now, if you look at where the parks and stuff we've concentrated has been, which is where all the people are, don't get me wrong, but at some point, we've got to make it more equitable for the entire county. I'm getting there now, so. Page 110, and if I did not do a word search on this section, but and it kind of says it, but it doesn't say it, but we need to have something about regionalization of utilities in our land use plan. I think that that's going to be what we're looking at, that's important, that this is in, clearly is a goal and is part of this plan is the regionalization of our infrastructure, particularly utilities, and I think some of this goes in, I think, under each one of those.
The goal's hinted at that, but
yes,
in order to achieve it, it's going to have to be regional.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. We hint at it, but I want to make it clear that, you know, regionalization it has to be a part of this. Let's see, I think. Down to the last page of the notes here. I feel like Commissioner Smith over here. I need to get a yellow notebook, notepad now.
And Post-it notes.
But yeah, I don't have the Post-it notes either. So, and then 113, clearly broadband. I'm glad it's in here because that's clearly something that we need to continue to take a look at.
You know, that's probably the second most repetitive complaint I hear from citizens besides slow the growth down. And we need broadband in so many areas.
Right. And then just on the transportation piece of the infrastructure, I think we're looking at updating our transportation plan. So I think that will, again, be a piece that accompanies this. And I guess I will say the final thing that I want to talk about is, you know, the land use categories, again, referencing the map, and just make sure that we identify places that we want to see the mixed use, you know, residential, so that our community, we're not as dependent on cars to either get to work, to go shop, to go to the park, that we provide areas where I can ride a bike there, but make sure that there's mixed use, whether it's a local, as in, you know, one subdivision, or if we're doing small area plans for the different intersections along the interstate, that we're looking at what we want that development to look like at those intersections. But that's all my notes. When I get sections 1, 2, and 3 back, I'll have some more. But I think section 4 was one for tonight, and I think that, you know, I'm interested to see what the map, I won't say revisions, but possibilities look like. But I think, I mean, from what I heard from sitting in the middle tonight, is there are a lot of things that we do agree on. Yeah, there's going to be some details, and then there's going to be, of course, the ordinance change, and then policies we have to do, but the implementation is going to be key, and I think as part of that implementation will be, you know, frequent reviews and updates to our plan, so that we don't get caught where we are now trying to make up for 10 years of being the fastest growing county in the state and 9th in the nation for our size, and we're trying to catch up while all this growth took place, to be ahead of it and be fair to future boards that they're tweaking rather than making wholesale changes. So, any other comments?
I would like to put regionalization in kind of a perspective for everybody. I'm aware of a piece of property that's being developed on Highway 70 or being looked at for development. It's really close to, the state law requires that the nearest municipality to the property has to have the first right to serve it and annex it. And it's firstly Selma. If Selma refuses, then it becomes Pine Level. If Pine Level refuses, it becomes Smithfield. Now, if Pine Level were to annex this property, take it on, if Selma refused and Pine Level took it on, it would require constructing a pump station on this property and pumping the waste through about 3,000 foot of force main to one of Pine Level's outlying pump stations. May or may not require a modification or an improvement to that pump station at a cost to someone. The gravity lines between that pump station and the next line would have to could probably have to be upsized. There's 2 pump stations that are involved before it gets to the county's pump station that takes all of the waste away from Pine Level and sends it to the equalization facility at Selma. At Selma, it's held in an equalization facility, and once again, it's pumped again to the Buffalo Creek pump station that's right behind the town of Smithfield's water treatment plant. And from there, it's pumped a certain distance before it becomes gravity and goes to the plant. So you've got 4 or 5 pump stations involved, and you've got gravity and force main. But if it was a regional system, the closest place would be to run 5,500 feet of force main right up 70 Highway and tie into the sewer that carries it to the sewer plant the fastest. Do away with all the upgrading and all the maintenance of all those lines that are being impacted, because it don't go straight to where it's going to be treated. It goes to that municipality, and that municipality has to go through the process we've got set up. Yeah. And that's why we need regionalization, is to get, it's so much costlier, it's so much better management. It's, and like I said, if we're going to do some expansion, the state only deals with one regional authority. And it's going to be a lot better to get those permits, a lot better to get an understanding, a lot better to build a relationship when you got 15 different relationships to try to get something accomplished in one county. But one other comment and listing that I kind of brought up, we need to make our subdivision ordinance compatible, not easier than these municipalities. Because if our subdivision ordinances are easier, developers are going to want to go under the county rather than the town. So we need to have a coordination of what our ordinance looks like as opposed to the municipality's ordinance. I've been there. I know what the developers look for. And they're going to look for the easiest place. But I agree that we need to upgrade the quality of development in Johnston County, and we need to provide the amenities. Everybody needs to understand that cost is not free, and the end user will always pay. So, keeping that in mind, I still think that's what we got to do. So I'll try to hush for tonight.
Well, nobody's been successful with that so far, so the track record
I may be popular
is not good.
Now, are you going to be like Commissioner Smith, who said that was his last, but he didn't stick to it?
I think you go
Third
to
last.
saying
I
something.
dated it, didn't say so.
I had a chance I don't normally get. I had to take it.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and he agreed with you. So yeah, you don't even be quiet. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts? So we'll continue the discussion. I would say encourage. I think I feel like we're getting closer to a point we can take a vote on it. But we'll have the 5th. We'll have more discussion at the evening session. And then
Well, let me ask you one question, because when you talk about designating where mixed-use development can be in an unincorporated area, there's going to be a time when some entity or person is going to come along and say, I'll put this much land together, I want to build the greatest mixed-use development possible, and I'll pay for the water and sewer line. I hope we don't write something that would prevent that from happening.
I don't think that, again, for me, this is a vision, a guiding document. When a project comes along, I mean, each project will be unique, and I think that something comes like that, then we consider that on its own merit, and I don't expect what we had, at least for me, I don't expect what we put on the map to be exactly the way.
Well, I would hope we would put some language in there that would give us the flexibility to do that if it worked.
I think that goes to that quality development. We're looking, and so to me, the ultimate goal is a quality development to enhance the quality of life. So if this outside this little magic, arbitrary, I won't say arbitrary, but something we had a reason for drawing at the time, if it doesn't exactly fit that, then I think it makes sense for us to consider all things, particularly as if it is a quality development. So I don't know if that's in the ordinance, but I'll leave that to staff to figure out how we make sure that we're not.
I would hope we would look past the letter of the document and regard the spirit of the document. That's what we're after.
I wouldn't want to discourage something like that. I want to encourage.
What you need to consider is that mixed use may look different from one person to the other, so there's always the scale of mixed use. A smaller scale mixed use development may not actually work in an area because you have an opportunity for availability of, land availability, resources, infrastructure, and whatnot. So you do need to give yourself that flexibility, and I think you'll do that most efficiently and effectively through your ordinances and policies.
And again, I think, small area plan, again, it's the process never seems to end. But one thing I meant to mention this, but I didn't. But as we're sitting here today, I guess our long-range planning responsibilities fall on your shoulders, as do the everyday planning responsibilities fall on your shoulders. And again, to use our friend Kevin Leonard's analogy from our retreat, walking on the Appalachian Trail, when you're looking at your feet all the time, that's not very long-range planning that you're doing. So as we're looking at staffing positions and something going forward, to me, that is critical, so that, again, we're not in the same boat. We're tweaking as we go, which may allow some of that flexibility that Commissioner Smith and
it's a never-ending process.
Yes, same. Any other comments before we move on? Thank you for standing there.
Absolutely.
Listen so attentively while we were there.
He's tired now.
Should've gotten a
Thank you,
stool.
Brian.
Yeah.
Think about it, you had to stand there.
Well, I mean, you need to get him one of those stand-up desks if you didn't have one already. So, all right, Mr. Hester, we're going to count on you to break the monotony and give us the manager's report and comments. That's right. You don't have to state your name and address, but yeah, you're good.
I'll just mention broadband came up tonight, and we have a meeting with them next week, the group that the state awarded, so we'll report back after that. So that's all I have tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next we have board reports, comments, and praises for Paula. So, Commissioner Bradwell, I'll start with you.
Well, when I came on the board, I had no idea what I needed to do. I didn't have to have an idea. It was all laid out for me. I mean, it was like, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I have nothing but admiration for Paula. She's one of the most efficient people I've ever known in my life, and very dependable. And you can always go to her, and she's there ready to help. So I think it's going to be some big shoes for Dana to fill.
When I was chairman in 19 and 20, one of those years was when the pandemic hit, and it presented a whole new set of challenges, logistical as well as other things, and Paula was on top of it all the time. It presented a lot of challenges of where we met, how we met, and all of those sort of things, and everything flowed smooth because of her dedication. But also, she's been involved in her state organization and has been recognized as the Clerk of the Year, and she's been president of that organization as well. So she's not only been great for us, but she's been great among her peers as well. So I congratulate you, Paula.
Sure, I have one report, and then I'll have the Paula comment. There's an issue that we're having in the county, and serving on the DSS board and also the Board of Health. It kind of came up from the mental health lack thereof services that are in the county. In my opinion, when the state of North Carolina got out of the mental health business and did away with the Dorothea Dix campus, there was really no plan to be able to provide service for these people. And so what's happening is in our county is DSS is charged with locating these folks that need help someplace, and the fact is there's just no place to locate them. So they're ending up in our local hospital. We've got one individual that's been over there for 71 days, I think. There's just no place to put them. They're not sick. They need some psychiatric help. There's some mental, parts that they need, but they're not sick in a sense like that they would need to be in a hospital, acute care hospital. And so in trying to work through that and to try to come up, I had several conversations with Ruth Marler and some of the folks at the hospital, and then, as a board person for DSS, we really were trying to work together. So Mr. Hester and I got together, and I called a meeting of all the players that I could think of, and Commissioner Godwin was there as not only as a commissioner but also as on the Alliance Health Board. Lee Jackson was there. We had Dr. Pearson, hospital staff, the mental health staff, DSS staff. I mean, there's a lot of different folks. Representative Donna White was there. We just had a really good discussion on really identifying what the problems are, and everyone has their set of playing rules that they have to go by, but none of these rules really mesh together and work well together. So what we're trying to do is to come up with some solutions, and Alliance is working on some things right now, and we're going to meet back again toward the middle of January to try to come together with some ideas. So this board may hear more about that, so if you hear comments about it, and we'll probably have some recommendations that will come before you at some point, whenever we figure that. But this is a problem that's not just a Johnston County problem. These are counties all over North Carolina are having the same problem. So,
Mr. Vice Chairman, can I add one thing to what you're talking about?
Sure.
We had a follow-up from Lee Jackson. He said Rod Robinson, CEO of Alliance, is having his people put together a service expansion proposal based on the meeting that we had on the 9th. Hopefully this will be a good jumping on end point to the problem. So Alliance is getting engaged.
that'd be great.
And
Dr.
thank you for putting that meeting together.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think it was very productive, and I think I appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy schedules to come. But it's a huge problem, and the thing that I really focus on is that person, while there's no place to put them, that's still someone's child. Even though they have some mental health crisis or problems or things, that's someone's son or daughter, and we got to come up with a better way to provide care for those people in an environment that would be conducive to bettering them and not just holding them in some space. And so I think we can do better. I'm not sure that there's a lot of good, smart people in this county, and I think if we all come together, we might come up with a solution that could be copied by other counties. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But there'll be more to come on that, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep y'all posted. As for our retiring clerk, Paula, I've known you for many years, and your family, and your brother and I work together, and so you've just been an extraordinary person as well as clerk to this board. And Johnston County is truly better because you are here. And so I thank you for your guidance and your support and all the things that you do for us and have done for us. And you're always smiling, and you're always happy, and you're always efficient. And it just never ceases to amaze me how you can herd this whole group up here and get us all into shape and get us moving down the road in the right direction. So thank you, and God bless you and your family, and I hope you have a blessed retirement, and thank you for all you've done. We appreciate you.
All right, Commissioner Smith.
Paul, I think when I look at a lot of things, I use the concept effective and efficient. And someone or something is effective when it gets the job done. They're efficient when they get it done in the most economical and best way. And there are a lot of people who are effective, but they're not efficient. There are a lot of people who are efficient, but they're not effective. You have a skill to be both. You're both effective and efficient. And I'm going to pay you the highest compliment I can. If you decide you want to go back to work, give me a call. I'll give you a job.
I was going to say that. I just want to say I've been, a fan of the county commissioners and the planning board. So the first time I met Paul, I was like, I feel like you're famous. I get your emails every week, and I read every one of them. So, again, I had no idea, like Commissioner Brazel said, what I was getting into when I got appointed, and she just welcomed me with open arms. Here's a notebook, here's your flash drive, here's your iPad, and call me with any questions. And I feel like I called her 5 times a day for the first 2 months, and she was always helpful and polite and sweet, and just like Commissioner Smith said, I've never seen anybody so efficient. If I come to her with a problem, I'm sitting here in a meeting, she's like, it's going to be fixed tomorrow. I'm like, of course it is. You've had it for all of 1 hour in your hands, and you've already fixed it. So thank you for all that you've done.
Oh, no. Commissioner Braswell? You going to defer, or you going to jump on the?
Now, all this pomp and circumstances is to no avail because she's not going anywhere. We had a pact, do you remember?
I thought you were just going to come on and go with me.
Did I hear a second to that?
Here.
Now, you know, when we take our picture with Dana in first year, she'll be the 4th clerk that I've had in my career. And all of them were good, but you have been here the longest with me being here. I hope everyone has an opportunity if they want to be chairman, but you can't be a chairman without somebody like Paula, because another 2 years that I was, that I couldn't have done it without Paula. There's just no way I could have done it without Paula. You're surely going to be missed. You've been, you know, I don't know how you have a smile on your face all the time. If I had to deal with us, I wouldn't be smiling, I'd be frank. But, you know, I appreciate what you've done and given. You and your family have been very, very good for Johnston County. I feel good about Dana because I know you trained her. And I think Dana is, she's going to do a great job. And I've worked with you a long time too, so you know my bad habits and you know all that. But you know, it's amazing how smooth things can go when there's someone operating the bus or the train that know what they're doing. And it makes, you know, our job easier, and it's good for the citizens. But I sincerely, even though you didn't follow through, you know, I'm going to let you go. If you go to work for Fred Smith, I'll kill you because you should.
You'll go work at the store?
Yeah, you got to work at the store, you know.
You know what Eleanor Creech did? She's probably going to run for county commissioner.
But I thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the citizens that we represent, all 222,000 of them. We thank you for your service and have a good retirement. Do what you want to do. Enjoy life. And Dana will keep us on the right track. And she's got another one over there sitting, and so we'll break you in. Don't worry about what they say. You worry about what we say. Okay.
This is all surprising to me because I thought I was the only one she treated like this.
Well, we're not going to ask her who her favorite commissioner is. You know? Yeah. But anyway, thank you for all you've done. And I didn't mean to be so long, but you know, it's just, you know, amazing how Rick and the staff come together. Even though I'm mad with the counselor right now, but it's amazing how everybody comes together. And you know, people sitting at home, there's got to be somebody who cuts on the lights every morning in here. There's got to be somebody answering the phone. And we should recognize Janetta when she was in here, Mr. Chairman. But and Janetta plays a big role. We talk to her a lot too. So, but thank you, and I'm shutting up.
All right, I had a couple of items of business, not 2.5 pages worth.
Okay.
But one, I'm not sure who all's in the meeting tomorrow. I know I am with the DOT to discuss the 210 detour that's been brought up a couple times. And I think is that Middle Creek?
Yep.
Yeah, it's Middle Creek.
It's a tributary.
Early, 8 o'clock.
You gonna be
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Oh, wait a minute.
I thought it was 8 o'clock. Anyway, we'll get on that later. But
Now you screwed me up.
It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, we got a meeting tomorrow with the DOT. The other thing is, Commissioner Harris and I attended the Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference last week, And I think to start out, and Commissioner Godwin is familiar with this procedure, but we started out with, I think, 286 goals this time, whittled it down to about 90, and not all in one day. And then when we got there last week, we took those 90 over basically 8 topics, I think it was, and whittled them down to basically 3 priority goals. I think we approved almost all the 86, but there were 3, and I'll just touch on them briefly. I'm not going to read everything we got, but the first one, and I don't think these are in order, but to seek legislation, funding, and other efforts to expand digital infrastructure and broadband capability in unserved and underserved areas of the state. The second one was to seek additional revenue resources to address statewide public school and community college capital needs, ensure method use to distribute capital funding considers the needs of both low wealth and growing counties. And then the third piece was to support expansion of Medicaid as well as related funding and operational flexibility for counties to expand county workforce and necessary infrastructure. So again, as you notice in there, the funding request is tied to all of those, but those were the 3 priority goals that came out of that conference. And there was a third thing that I can't remember, and Rick was supposed to help me, and he couldn't remember either, so we'll get that at the next meeting. But that brings me to Paula. And Paula, I do want to say thank you. It's one of those things that tonight was probably the first time I've seen you out of your element. Everything that I've never seen you frazzled over any of the last-minute requests or something not working out, or crazy in ideas and people, the different personalities that you have to work with on not just this board, but every board you've worked with for the last 15 years. But your ability to customize your responses and how you handle each of us is amazing. Not many people have that quality in any job that they have, but to take that and do as great a job as you've done over those years, and I thank you. And just little things. So when you see us up here, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but when you see little outlines so that we know what to say and what the motion looks like. When I was, when I first appointed chairman, I was like, I don't know what to do, but we got an outline, and you get it, and you look at it, and it's like, this makes perfect sense. It makes it so much easier, so I can focus on what's going on, or all the chairs can focus on what's going on without having to think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do next? So little things like that that she does. And again, I think former Commissioner Stewart mentioned it. When you ask for something, our expectation is that it may take a little while to get done, but the responses have been, I won't say immediate every time, but a lot quicker than I thought I was ever going to get it back. And I don't think I've thrown too many crazy ideas at you, but I may have. But I really do want to thank you personally for helping me navigate this role as chairman. I definitely could not have done it without you, so thank you, and I wish you the best. I want you to really retire. I don't want to just retire and go back to work. I want you to really retire and enjoy yourself, but thank you for all you've done.
I think her mother has plans for her.
She does.
Okay, well good. That sounds good. So with that, I think there's a need to go into closed session. I hear your motion to go into closed session.
Okay, I move the board go into closed session to establish or instruct staff concerning negotiation price terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A5, and for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3.
Second.
All right, I did have a quick question. Do we expect any action to be taken at the end of this?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Well, so we'll reserve, we will, let's just say we'll see what happens, and we'll come back out, and if there's action to be taken, stay tuned. So, Adam, I don't know if you need to hang around to be able to do that, but, all right, we have a motion and a second to go into closed sessions for the reasons stated. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We'll go into closed session in just a second. All right, we are now out of closed session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn for the evening?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.